Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Blanketfort Studio. So welcome back, everybody. This is episode 8 of the Blanketfort Studio, and as promised, we're going to talk about the Whisper Room, okay? The reason specifically that we're going to talk about the Whisper Room is because that's what I have. There are other sound booths on the market, to be sure. There's a manufacturer out of London. You can get the plans to build your own vocal booth from dawbox.com, which is a website where you can where you pay $60 for. You pay $60 for plans to a booth, and it's supposed to be portable. So let me tell you a couple of things about why I have one of these. I mean, these are not cheap. They're not cheap. Whisper rooms are not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. They are kind of pricey, and you have to ask yourself if it's really worth it to get one of these things. There are many ways to get yourself a nice recording studio. You can build them out of PVC pipe and producer's choice blankets, which I have around me here in the booth. And you can do a pretty good job, and it'll do a pretty good job of deadening the sound. It won't block out the sound, as I found out. I used to have, so the original Blanketfort was PVC pipe and producer's choice blankets. And I got a lot of work with those producer choice blankets, but the problem is that they don't keep sound out. It's not soundproof. A whisper room isn't soundproof. Nothing is truly soundproof. You can do your best to soundproof the room, but nothing is ever truly soundproofed. So, I had a Blanketfort. That's why Blanketfort Studio. And after a while, I would, in the mornings when I would try to do my auditions, I would hear the cars in the neighborhood starting up, and I got to know them by the engine sound that they were making. And I realized that it was taking a big chunk of my time to wait for automobiles, or wait to go by my house, or wait for loud jet planes to fly overhead, or to wait for the furnace to kick off. And so I was having so much trouble auditioning for parts and for work that I decided to just go ahead and invest the money, spend the money, and get myself an actual honest-to-gosh whisper room. And that's what I did, or get myself a real vocal booth. Now, originally I had tried to build a DAW box, but DAW box requires carpentry skills that I do not have. And so realizing that I am not a skilled carpenter, I thought, well, maybe it'd be best if I, got something that was professionally built and something modular. And that was the reason I started to build a DAW box, because, the plans say that you can build the DAW box completely modular. The problem is that the better you build the DAW box, the heavier the parts become, and then it's not modular anymore, especially if you're the only one lifting the pieces of it, the walls, the ceiling, the floor. Those get awful heavy. So I looked into it, and the most modular design that I could find is the Whisper Room. Now, this Whisper Room is a 48 by 48. It's a 4 foot by 4 foot booth. Inside, I think the dimensions are like 43 inches by 43 inches, or 45 inches by 45 inches, something like that. It's not a lot of room. And as you can see, if you look into looking through it inside the booth using the GoPro camera, you can see what's going on inside this booth. There's barely any room for me to stand in the back, and I'm planning on figuring out a way to fix that, because I have a lot of stuff in here. I have my interface, which right now I'm testing an Audient ID22, which you guys didn't need to know that, but that's coming up for our next episode. I've got a monitor over here that helps me monitor what's going on with my voice, how loud I'm talking, and all that stuff. And it's got my DAW. And if I'm running a script or something over here on the left-hand side, I can read from the script on my monitor. I've got shelf space for scripts, my keyboard, which is a solar-powered Logitech K750, and I've got a trackball because I like trackballs. I don't like mice. Remote controls for my lights and all that stuff are kept in this neat little box here. I've got extra cabling if I need it inside the booth, and fittings for microphones and stuff like that. So, you'll also notice inside my booth that I've got a lot of foam on the walls. Okay, this is Oralex-like foam. It's not necessarily Oralex. Some of it is, some of it isn't. Right now I couldn't tell you which is which. I've also got bass traps up in the corners here and down here in the corners. Back behind me and along this wall next to the camera is a Producer's Choice blanket. So as you can see, this is a pretty fully functioning booth, and I've got LED lights and lights up here and all this stuff. A microphone arm for my mics. I've also got microphone stands if I need extra to help do mic checks. And on my wall, I've got the one decoration I allowed myself, the one actual decoration I allowed myself, which is this on-the-air light. Let everybody know to stay the heck out of my room so that, I can work and not to bother me while I'm doing business in here. The thing about what I liked about the Whisper Room, first of all, was that, I've seen so many people online actually using them. It's customizable, beyond customizable. It has a glass window. I don't know if you can, here, let me see if I can turn this camera just a hair so you can see my window out here. You can see that I've got a window out into my office. So I can see what's going on out there. If I didn't have the window, I'd get awfully claustrophobic. What I liked about the design, a couple things I liked. Some of my favorite YouTubers are using Whisper Rooms. Mike Delgaudio specifically is one of the YouTubers that I watch that over at Booth Junkie. He's got one of these, or at least he used to, until he moved into his new house and had to build his own enclosure, which is much bigger than his old Whisper Room, and I'm sure he's much happier with it. Mine, I needed one that was modular because I'm not planning on living in this house forever. I wasn't going to build a permanent structure, so I needed something I could take apart and take with me. And this structure was fairly easy to put together. And if you haven't seen my video on me putting this thing together, go back a couple of episodes. I think it's episode 3, where I have a time lapse of me putting this thing together. And I had a great time doing it. I had fun. Because I just repainted my office and the whole 9 yards, and I used my work office as my vocal booth, or as my vocal studio. Continuing on, this has turned out to be great. I don't hear the cars anymore. I don't hear the jets anymore. I don't hear the furnace anymore, at least not as much. I did have to replace my furnace this year, and now I have a better furnace, and unfortunately, better also means louder, apparently. So, watch out for that. But ultimately, this is turning out to be a great investment. I've made the money I've spent on this booth, and I bought mine brand new. So, like I said, why do I need it? Why do you need a Whisper Room? The biggest thing is because when you are submitting your auditions for, whatever you're doing, whether it's work for your agent, work for your pay-to-play websites that you're signed up to, whatever medium you're sending your auditions to, you need the best possible audio recording. And the best possible audio recording is going to have as little background noise in it as humanly possible. Let me demonstrate. I am opening up the door to the Whisper Room. The door is open right now. Right next to my office is a family bathroom, which is great because, when I'm going to run out, get done, get quick. My wife is in there right now. She's got the fan on. Out in my office, you can hear my computer fan through the microphone because it suddenly got louder in here. Not too far off in the distance from my house is a very busy street. And if this wall wasn't in behind me, if this whisper room wall wasn't in behind me, you could hear all the cars going up and down the road. So the biggest pro of a whisper room is that it helps you get that pro sound by killing all the noise in your house and keeping the noise outside where it belongs so you can have silence, perfect silence, inside the house or inside the booth. I'm not endorsed by Whisper Room in any way, shape, or form. I didn't get this booth for free. I'm paying for it. But getting it was very easy. Purchasing this Whisper Room was a very easy process, and the people at Whisper Room made it very, very simple, and I thank them for that, especially the salesman whom I talked to. You know who you are, sir. This Whisper Room has been great. Ever since I got it, I have no complaints. It does resonate if you don't soundproof the walls or if you don't foam and blanket the walls with something. A lot of guys like to use fiberglass insulation. I won't touch the stuff. I don't want any kind of fiberglass. Okay, so what they'll usually do is they'll put fiberglass on the wall and they'll hang sheets over top of it, like fabric sheets to keep the fiberglass in place. I won't touch the stuff because I don't want to potentially breathe in anything like that, which is why I've got the Producer Choice audio blankets, the Producer's Choice studio blankets behind me, because that actually took most of the resonance, the bass resonance, out of this room. So, I had to put foam on the ceiling. I don't know if you guys can see this. Here, let me... Yeah, I put foam on the ceiling because it was resonating off the ceiling, so I had to make that happen too. So I put the foam on the ceiling. My biggest gripe is not with the foam itself. My biggest gripe is with the Velcro that I use to stick on the back of the foam. It's not very good Velcro. I thought it was industrial strength. Apparently it's not, or it just doesn't stick to the foam. One of the two. I don't know which one it is, but I've had to put Velcro straps on my ceiling just to keep everything hooked up. But the walls do a really good job of holding Velcro. It's just the foam doesn't do a very good job of sticking to the Velcro. So there you go. What else can I tell you? It comes with a secondary window and the door standard. One last thing about Whisper Rooms that I really liked, and this is the reason that I purchased mine. If you get to a point where either you've paid off your Whisper Room or you think, man, this 4x4 space is a little bit cramped for me and really like a bigger booth. Well, guess what? Whisper Rooms are expandable. So if I wanted to turn this into a 6x4, all I'd have to do is call Whisper Room and order additional sections for this booth to make it a 6x4 booth. Or if I wanted to make it a 6x6 or an 8x8, all I got to do is call up Whisper Room and say, hey, I'd like to purchase additional space for my booth. And they'll send it to you. And you can just bolt it in and boom, you're ready to go. And if you go back and watch episode 3, you'll see me putting this thing together. You'll see how easy it is to put together. And I assume, and I know what happens when you assume something, but I assume that the process of putting together an expansion for a Whisper Room has got to be as easy as it was to put this thing together in the first place. But I will tell you this, if I do decide to expand this booth, I will film it for you and I will put it on the Blanketfort studio so you guys can see the process of expanding a Whisper Room if necessary. This is not an exclusive endorsement of Whisper Room. This is not an exclusive endorsement of Whisper Room. I believe that, if you go out, and I believe that this is a quality product, don't get me wrong. I think that this is a great quality product, and I have no complaints about my Whisper Room. Oh, I just about forgot. One other great feature of a Whisper Room is that it has there's two more features that I want to talk about in the Whisper Room, and then we're done. The first feature is in the walls. In the window wall and in the back wall behind me, the vent, which is the vent wall. You can't see the vents because I got them covered up by the producer's choice blankets. But if I were to pull aside the curtain, give me a second here. You pull aside the curtain. Okay, not as easy as I thought it was going to be. Well, anyway, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. We will call this moment a fail. Okay. Behind me in the walls, you can't see it, but there are two vents. There's one up here, and then there's one down below me. To my left, your right. And there's a hose that you hook up to these boxes on the back, and there's a vent. I don't run the fan because the fan's noisy in here. But there are ways to mitigate that sound, and one of these days I will show you how to do it. The other great feature about these is in the front wall, as I was saying, in this wall, the glass wall in front of me, and the back wall, the vent wall behind me, there are ports that you can run cables out of the Whisper Room with these little rubber corks that you can wrap your cables in, and you can run the cables out, and then you can cork up the holes in the walls so that you don't get any sound coming in. I cannot stress enough how much a good booth will improve the sound of your recordings. How much silence in the background will make you sound so much more like a professional. If you get an opportunity to get yourself a booth, to build yourself a booth, or to buy the plans for a booth and build it, or to buy a Whisper Room like this, or, do it. Take the money, invest in yourself. One of the biggest things that you can do for yourself in the world of voiceover is invest in your own earnings. This is how you do it. Sometimes you do have to spend a little money to make a little money, and I've proven that to myself over the last 4 or 5 months that I've been doing voiceover professionally. I hope this hasn't been too long and drawn out. I didn't mean to go on for almost 20 minutes, but I have. If you have any questions about a booth like this, what it takes to get it, please don't feel like you can't contact me. Contact me at studio@chrisbaitens.com. The email will be provided in the comments below. I will also put it up on the screen right about here. Right here somewhere. Right in here. Yeah, here. Right there. Okay. So, send me an email. Feel free to ask me questions. Feel free to suggest things that you would like me to cover as far as voiceover is concerned. Once again, I have been Chris Baitens. Guys, go out there, invest in yourself. Get the gear you need to do the job you want to do. And in this case, the job I want to do is professional voiceover all day long. Get yourself the gear. If you got to, do it on the cheap. I'm okay with that. I endorse that. Get your career going. Ultimately, break a leg, guys. Break a leg, guys and girls. You're worth it. Peace out. We'll see you next time on the Blanketfort Studio.